Hey, everybody, welcome. You've been admitted. I was admitted years ago, I got to say. I was admitted years ago. You've been admitted to today's hang for Hudson Music. This is our new tradition. We're getting started, and we're really excited about this new tradition because us drummers, we like to hang. We're known to like to hang. And at Hudson Music, we especially emphasize the hang. And so we have a great group of authors, world renowned drummers that we plan to have on. And this was, of course, all the brainchild of the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to him, the great Rob Wallace. Please, a hand for Rob, everybody. Come on, a hand for
Oh,
Rob. I
please,
can see all of you.
please.
Let's. Yep, that's right. That's right.
Thank you.
So Rob's here. He's behind the scenes. He's got the cane for when I start saying too many stupid things. Yank me off the screen. It'll probably last 5 minutes. See a lot of our old friends, our regular visitors. Nick Marcy coming to us from Austin. Hey, Nick. Jeff Lang coming to us from up in Canada. Carlo from Italy. A lot of our wonderful regular viewers. Dave Stanark, Dave, the man, is here. Okay.
Beautiful.
Anyway,
Joe Franco.
Joe
Hey,
Franco's here.
Joe Franco's in the house.
Joe came in off the golf course for us. No, Joe, I'm just teasing.
Amazing.
I'm
I hope you
teasing.
didn't
I'm
get
teasing.
sunburned.
All right. Anyway, Joe, there he is. Hey, man. All right, cool. So we're here today with esteemed guest, actually, Mr. Stanton Moore. Stanton is a Grammy-winning artist. He's recorded with a long list of people, too long to go through here. Irma Thomas, Ivan Neville, Tom Morello, Corrosion of Conformity. He has his band Galactic, of course. Everyone who knows him knows he hails from New Orleans. I consider him the mayor of New Orleans. If you are really lucky, you're privy to his restaurant list when you go down there. Oh, I shouldn't have spilled the beans on that. And he's also been a preeminent educator in our world. From the time I met him, actually, as a young whippersnapper, at his first appearance at the Modern Drummer Festival, which he was masterful, sharing his knowledge, and he was promoting a previous book with a previous company, of which I was the editor, strangely, and he was one of the lead authors. We were brought together by somebody who also was important to Rob, Sandy Feldstein, and so he had that book. But then we got together at Hudson Music 15 years ago, I'm sort of sad to say, and created this wonderful package that Stanton wrote called Groove Alchemy. And it was a DVD. Remember these things, you guys? DVD and and a book, really outstanding, and his knowledge as an educator really came through in the book. And just a show of hands, you guys, raise a hand if you have the book. Okay, good. So some of you do. Some of you may be learning a little bit about it. Okay, good. So we'll look at and share some of it, and of course Stanton can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's the idea of groove alchemy. He has a massive knowledge of historically important drummers from funk and New Orleans, but the idea is to take that knowledge and to go somewhere of your own with it, I think. But we're going to get into that, and let's just say, welcome, Stan.
What's happening, everybody? It's very good to be here. What's happening, Joe? I've been looking forward to talking to you about this, and if I can say a couple words. We had a fantastic time working on this project. It was really enjoyable working with Joe as an editor, but then we all went and got to live in Woodstock for several days while we recorded and filmed this project at Levon Helm's studio. So part of what we're going to do today is reminisce about this experience and talk about getting to know Levon a little bit and being able to submerge ourselves in his world, in his barn, which his house was part of the barn. So he had his house, and then the barn was the studio and performance space where he would record and also perform his midnight rambles with his band. And I got to go back and do one of these rambles. We'll get into all that as we're talking. But making this project was very, very enjoyable but also I have lifelong memories of us being up there, and we all stayed in different places, but we would come together every day and work long, hard hours there in Levon's space, the barn, which is kind of a legendary spot. And this, there are projects that you work on, and then as you reflect back on them, there are projects that you work on that you just have such fond memories that were really formative for the rest of your career. And I feel that way about this project. And I've since gone back and made another record there with Stanton Moore project. We're going to get into telling some stories about how Levon and I developed a relationship after all of this. And it's, as we reflect back, and we will through this Zoom, I just have such great, wonderful memories of this whole project together.
Yeah, I have to say it was a very special experience, and I can't help but feel like the production of something like that for a DVD, there's I'm never one to just be nostalgic and say things are worse now, but the fact that we when you had the ability to make this DVD, and you could go on site. And at the time we did this with you, Stanton, shortly thereafter, we were in Death Valley with Neil Peart. These are and Rob, of course, and his former partner, Paul, they were not the founders of doing this, but then being able to go on location into some place like Levon Helm's very studio, which it couldn't have been more perfect for the content you were doing and the whole continuity of the vibe of that Levon is there and you were there, and I was completely blown away. It was memories to, like you said, to last a lifetime.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And since you mentioned that, Hudson, I started talking to Paul Siegel, Rob's former partner, and Paul and Rob are pretty legendary in the drum education world. And if you're going to do something in drum education, you want to be with those guys. And I feel very fortunate. You mentioned Sandy Feldstein, and some of you might be aware, but for those of you who aren't, Sandy, no offense to Rob and Paul, but Sandy was kind of like the OG godfather of drum education. And I just can't believe that I got to work on my first book with Sandy Feldstein. It's pretty remarkable. And I got to really learn from him, and, just to be vulnerable and talk to you guys, talking into the camera. I've gotten more comfortable with it now, but talking into the camera your first time is the most terrifying thing of all time. So I had written that first book, Take It to the Street, and I was feeling really confident about it. And then we filmed a lot of the musical stuff, which was Dirty Dozen Brass Band and George Porter Jr. on bass and Ivan Neville. And I'm feeling good. And then we did all that, and then it's okay, let's start filming the examples. And then there's the camera, and there are several other cameras, and I'm literally just I felt myself freezing. I was just and Sandy was there producing the whole thing. He sat on one side of the camera, and Johnny Vodakovich, I had done an interview with him earlier, but because I was talking to Johnny, it was more comfortable. And Johnny sat on the other side of the camera, and Sandy said, "Just talk to me." And Johnny said, "Or just talk to me, little brother. Take turns. Just talk to either one of us." And they sat there and helped me through it. And, I'll never forget Sandy for that whole experience. But he was just such a beautiful, sweet, intelligent, informed, brilliant, OG of the drumming educational world. And, I got to do my first project with him. And then what do you do after that? You're well, I want to work with Hudson. I want to work with Rob and Paul, because they were doing Steve Gadd DVDs, Neil Peart DVDs. you know, the list goes on and on and on. I'm like, oh my God, if I could get on that roster, that would be amazing. And based off of the work that I did with Sandy, Rob and Paul were willing to take a chance on this young guy, and you know, worked my tail off on the book. And thanks to you, Joe, you really helped me edit it and put it together and structure it in a way that I felt very confident about. And then we all got to go together and have this experience together of filming it. And we recorded the record, and then some of that we stripped the drums and made it into play-alongs, and we did the whole instructional thing all at once, you know. So I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think we were there with the record and the filming and recording all the examples. I think we were there for 9 days, maybe. Was it that long? It was 7 or 9 or something.
I know you were working on the record for days that we weren't there with
Right.
Hudson. But I just have to tell everybody watching that, you know, I can remember when you started to film the educational parts, and, you know, you did a couple of takes, and I was like, man, he's really organized, but there's a lot to cover. I mean, like, hundreds probably of examples. And I can remember you did the first couple of takes, and then you're like, okay, man, like, you took a deep breath, and I was like, wow, like, this guy's got to film a lot of content. And I'm here to tell you, everybody that's listening, like, it is so true. Like, when the cameras are on you, it's like, you know, the best I can equate it to is I got to do a clinic at PAS. You know, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you're going to go up there and all these people are going to be sitting there staring at you, and the cameras are going to go on, and then you actually have to do. So, you know, we always say you can't be too prepared, and really and you were so on it. Like, you were so together with what you wanted to do. And for you guys listening, he just knocked it out. And like, you watch that DVD, he just knocked out groove after groove. And you can still see the stuff. It's instant video now. So all of our old catalog, even if you don't have a deep DVD player anymore, you can still go and get it as instant video to go with the book. But it was like super impressive. You were just so prepared and ready to go, just like, you know, professional to the hilt, and I was super impressed.
Well, thank you, man. And that means a lot. And, you know, a lot of that is because I got to work with a really good editor by the name of Joe Bergamini, who helped me focus. And, you know, just for, if anybody's interested, you know, it started, I wrote the book and all that, and I felt like it was pretty organized, but it felt like it was starting off a little dry. And then you guys encouraged me to start it off with a story that would, like, draw people in. So I started it off with this story of being in another high pressure situation where I was in a session with Irma Thomas, and she had a song she wanted to do, but it was in 12/8, and she says, I like the song, but I don't want to do it like that. I don't know how I want to do it, but it's not like that. And so she was like, and we had already recorded for a couple of days, so we were starting to get comfortable. And she said, I said, well, I could go out there and play some ideas on the drums, and you just tell me when I play something that you like. And she was like, okay. So I went out there and I just started, she said, nope, don't like that, nope, don't like that. And then eventually I came upon something, you know, and that song wound up being one of the songs on the record, and then she won a Grammy for that record. And my, to this day, only Grammy yet, my first Grammy so far, is with Irma. And now Irma and Galactic just did a new record called Audience with the Queen, and fingers crossed, we're hoping to try to win another Grammy with this record. But it's a whole record with Irma. So I've developed a nice rapport and a nice relationship and a nice working relationship with Irma Thomas. But we started the book with that story. And it talks about how you can creatively come up with grooves, come up with gold, come up with groove gold on the spot by combining different elements, and eventually be able to create grooves that hopefully will either turn into musical gold or hopefully win a Grammy.
Listen, I know you want another one, but one enough is impressive. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're all good. So Stan, why don't we we can reminisce for this whole time, but why don't we give some folks a little overview of the book? How about we start there?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share my screen. Somebody wave at me if you could see the screen. See my screen.
I can see it.
Okay, cool. So everybody, this is our digital player. For those of you who haven't tried it out yet, it's very user friendly. I'm logged into my account here on my Mac, but I can, log in. I'll log in on my iPad. It's not resting on my side snare when I'm teaching. And once you're in your account, you can get all your books on every device. So, Stan, I just opened up to the table of contents here. Again, another thing that we're definitely very big into is the look, the look of a book. Mm-hmm. And so this is just very beautifully designed. Picture street in New Orleans here. But I did open up to the table of contents so people could see. Can you guys see a little bit here? Should I zoom in a little further? See it? Can you see the words a little better?
Yeah.
What do you say, Nick? Can you see it? All right, good. So Stan, maybe give us a little walkthrough. I for those who don't know, it does start out with some history here. We have some of your favorite drummers. We have Zig and we have the James Brown drummers, and then what's playing between the cracks? What's that business all about?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can definitely just start talking about that. I mean, because you're talking about Zig. I mean, talking about Zig is one of the most direct ways to address playing in between the cracks. So playing in between the cracks means you're not playing straight and you're not playing swing. You're playing somewhere in between. And most of the great groove drummers do this. So James Gadson does this, Bernard Purdie does it, Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks all do it. But addressing Zig is one of the most direct ways to address this. And so if you take a groove like Hey Pocky Way, which is all right, left, right, left, right, left, it's in between the cracks, right? So let me just play that for you so we get an idea of what that sounds like. Now, that is in between the cracks. Now, let me play it two straight, okay? Two straight, it sounds like this. And I'm intentionally leaning forward a little bit. I'm pushing it a little bit. I'm trying to make it sound crappy, okay? But here it is, two swung. Two swung is equally terrible in a new and interesting way. And it's so terrible, I don't even want to play it for very long. But what we can do is you can take 16th notes and play them straight, and you can, Nick Solnick is behind the scenes. He's my engineer. So when I say Nick, give me the foot cam if you wouldn't mind. So imagine you've got a metronome going, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop. I'll approximate that with my hi-hat and bass drum. Beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my lav. I'm going to play 16th notes. The right hand can lock into the metronomic 8th notes that would be played by a metronome. The right hand can lock into that. The left hand's going to do all the morphing. Okay? Give me that side cam, Nick, please. And then the right hand can lock into metronomic 8th notes. The left hand is going to start straight, then we're going to get in between, then we're going to get to swing, I'll get past swing to flams, and then we're going to come all the way back through the spectrum, okay? So check this out. right? Now, thank you. Now, most of us, we know what sissy strut is supposed to sound like, most of us, right? Ha-ya, da-da-da-boo-da, da-boo-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-ba, right? Now I'm going to play the groove to it. Now, if I play that 2 swing, it's going to sound like Peter Cottontail coming down the bunny trail, right? It's awful, right? Now, if I play it 2 straight, it'll be equally awful in a different way. So playing in between the cracks, and of course I'm exaggerating and I'm trying to make it sound terrible for comedic effect. But playing in between the cracks is the nuance that a lot of great groove drummers understand, that make it so that it feels right. Okay? Now, you could take something like Funky Drummer, where you're playing 16th notes all on the right hand. Here's Funky Drummer. But if I play it 2 swing, it sounds awful. That's not it. And if it's 2 straight, we don't recognize, we think of Funky Drummer maybe as being straight, but it's really in between. If you play it 2 straight, it's not it either. And of course, I'm exaggerating for effect, but Funky Drummer is not fully straight. It's in between. And understanding in between the cracks is your first step towards really understanding how to start making things groove more. Because some things are a little bit more towards the straight end of the spectrum, some things a little bit more to the swing end of the spectrum. But that's a way to quickly and directly address your feel and the groove of each particular musical context that you might be addressing.
So song. Stanton, while you were demonstrating that, I brought the book back up, and I, just so everybody could see, I scrolled through. You actually have these things transcribed, and you kind of hit on 2 things at once there. The book does open with this historical section, and you have not only the 2 that you mentioned, Funky Drummer, you have all these classic James Brown grooves transcribed, and then you have this whole section on Zig where you talk about Sissy Strut, a lot of the little nuances, like people don't know it was played with 2 hands, they think it was played with 1, and so on and so forth. So I kind of brought that up to show you guys this part of the book is worth it by itself, even though it's really kind of only the intro where Stanton kind of goes through this classic vocabulary, and nobody knows this stuff better than he does. So that was up there, and then it goes through. Oh, there he is. There's Zig.
There he is.
Looking classy with the shades on. And then here's a little bit of what Stanton was explaining here about placement of those notes as you try to learn how to get yourself to play in between the cracks. And then he has a lot of examples here that do that. So let me get, yeah, okay. It's interesting. It's funny. You played, and I don't know, I want to see what you thought about this. When you demonstrated it, and you purposely made it sound bad, the way you did that was you didn't do the proper balance of sound between your limbs. Like, you didn't play the ghost notes the same way. But I think when a good drummer tries to play this stuff and they don't quite get the feel right, they probably get that stuff right, but they don't get the placement of the notes right. And there's probably something that they're not doing or that they haven't done that's making it so they don't feel where things lay.
Yeah.
Would you
And
agree with that? And if so, what do you think is the key ingredient?
Yeah, and that's a great point. I was intentionally messing up the dynamic balance as well to kind of exaggerate the point. To me, to really improve your groove and to really make things feel right, there are certain nuances, one of them being the phrasing, playing in between straight and swing, playing in between the cracks, and finding that exact spot for that groove or that particular song. Another nuance is the entire, to use your phrase, dynamic balance. And those elements are, you got to have those things together to make it. And then, are you pushing it? Are you playing it right down the middle? Is this one supposed to be laid back a little bit, right? So being aware of all those nuances, song by song, is really going to help. And kind of realizing that each song, each groove is kind of a universe into itself, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't just learn a beat and be like, okay, now I've figured that out. It's like, you know, each song is kind of like a little universe into itself. And the song is an organism, a living organism that takes on a slightly different life depending on who's playing it, right? And how true do you want to be to the original, or do you want to completely reinterpret it? And that's cool too, right? I mean, Johnny Vodakovich played a great version of Sissy Strut with John Scofield, completely different beat, right? But very cool. Right? Two completely different beats. Now, Johnny V's reinterpretation is cool as hell, but if you're playing with George Porter Jr. and Leo Nocentelli and they want it to sound like the original, you got to be able to do that.
Right.
And so if I can say that, you know, since we've made this book, and the video and the whole project, now I am playing in a project called Geo Leo, which is George Porter Jr., Leo Nocentelli, and Ivan Neville on keys. And it's a pinch myself moment where it's like, holy crap, I'm playing with half the original meters. And I tell people this, in New Orleans, that's, to me at least, it's as important as if I would be asked to play with half the Beatles or half of Led Zeppelin or half of Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, playing with half the meters, like that's all I've ever wanted to do my entire life. So it's, you know, it's pretty cool. It's awesome. So I'm really glad that we, you know, got to put all this together, but now I'm actually getting to play this stuff with two of the original guys who wrote it. And even back then I was playing with all of the guys kind of individually, but now to really play with George and Leo together is it's really, it's a pinch myself moment.
You deserve it, brother. You're an honorary meter, or a half meter even.
Yeah,
sweet.
A
you
heater.
Know, it's fun. Congrats on that. And you know, it's funny you mentioned Bonham. Through the book, Stanton sprinkles in. He's just into every style of music, and so he sprinkles in Bonham's in there, right? And you know, one of the things I think about is Whole Lot of Love, which you actually talk about in the book. Like, and this is another thing I wondered, because you're a much bigger expert than I am on this, but even when Bonham comes in Whole Lot of Love, Eric goes bow bow love, and he's like go now, like that snare thing. It's 16ths, quote unquote, but it's not on the grid. It's sort of in between the cracks, and I feel like every bar Zeppelin tribute band. Like if I always feel like if the drummer has grown up listening to Zeppelin and only rock post Zeppelin and never listen to any funk or anything that's swung or anything that's in cracks, they're never going to hear that. And so they're not going to sound like John Bonham.
Right. And that's a beautiful point. So that snare drum fill coming out of the psychedelic section of Whole Lotta Love. And I have looped this up, okay? I have a loop of it, and I practiced to this, okay? It is in between the cracks. And to your point, that is what makes Bonham feel so good. Yeah. And in that moment, saka laka 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 da 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 da, laka 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 da 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 da. It's not this. It's not swung, right? And it's not this. It's not super straight, and it's not swung. It's in between, and it's beautiful. And in that moment, Bonham gave us an inside look at his inner clock. Yeah. And if you're a real Bonham fanatic, like Joe and I both are, Joe wrote an incredible transcription book on Bonham, which I have worked out of, which is incredible. If you haven't checked that out.
You're too kind, thank you.
Check that out. And you know, Joe's books on Neil Peart and Stuart Copeland and now Billy Cobham. I mean, you know, the books that Joe has been working on are a lifetime of knowledge in and of themselves, right? And I've dug into some of them, and they are incredible. So since we got on that topic, kudos to you.
Thank you. You don't know what that means to me. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate
but
that.
Anybody of, you know, any of y'all watching, if you don't know about Joe's books yet, you know, every year you got to think of something for Christmas, right? And, you know, so tell your wife, I want that Joe Bergamini book. Well, you know, Joe writes books on the masters. And did you work on the Gad one too?
Yeah, I wrote that one.
Yeah.
Rob doesn't like it. You know, Rob keeps me chained to the desk is what happens. You know, he doesn't like, he thinks I'm going to be like wandering around, you know, Jersey with nothing to do. So, you know, Rob's like, listen, Joe, let's get to it. Well, but no, thank you. I did. Yeah.
I just realized I don't think I have the Gad one yet. I definitely don't have the Billy Cobham. So I'm going to add that to my birthday list. My birthday's in July.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what. I mean, obviously, from my personal standpoint, I have Rob to thank for meeting these heroes. But our objective with this stuff is to make it so it's like, you know, and you did to this to a great degree with Groove Alchemy. Yeah, there's transcriptions. Yes, the red meat's in there, but it's biography too. It's like you need all that to really understand the players, you know. But thank you. I appreciate your kind words, man. It really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I want to leave time to reminisce because we have great stories, but just to give people a little overview about, because it's not just a history book, right? You do have one of the probably greatest sections on shuffles in any drum book. You have that whole section about swing and shuffles. But I think an objective you have with the book is that people have a takeaway of becoming more creative groove players, right?
Absolutely. And that's the goal, is to, okay, not just understand these beats, but understand where each one of these drummers drew their inspiration from and what the idea was before it became this, right? So for example, you know, I got to watch, since we're on Zig, right, a lot of this dives deep into Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks as well. But since we're on Zig, and not to jump around too much, I got to see Zig in a master class, like a clinic, with Johnny Vodakovich. The two of them did a joint clinic at PASIC 1992 in New Orleans. And Zig himself demonstrated. He saw a guy named Stanley Ratcliffe. He used to watch, you know, saw him many, many times. He used to go see Stanley. Stanley was the first guy in New Orleans that anybody saw play hand-to-hand 16th notes, okay? Nowadays, this is commonplace, but in the mid-60s, nobody was doing this yet. So Zigsaw Stanley playing this beat, okay, with a mambo bass drum pattern on the right foot. And then, Nick, give me the side cam on this, please. Now, that is in between the cracks. So we take that, that exercise we did before on the snare drum, going from straight to in between to swing, do that on the hi-hat with this groove, okay, to get that feel. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that beat. That's where Zig got it from, and then I'm going to morph it into Sissy Strut, okay? Side cam again, please, Nick.
Yeah, man.
Right? So, and then, with Cold Sweat, the Clyde Stubblefield's Groove to Cold Sweat, the open hi-hat on the and of 1 and the and of 3. That's coming from Melvin Parker. Okay, Melvin Parker played that on Out of Sight, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, and I Got the Feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So then Clyde took that open hi-hat on and of 1 and 3, got that from Melvin Parker. And then the idea of displacing the backbeat, putting the backbeat on beat 4 in the first measure to the and of 4, that came from Clayton Filial, 1962. I Got Money. So Clyde took one thing from Melvin Parker, mixed it with another thing from Clayton Filial, and came up with the groove to Sissy Strut. I mean, the groove to Cold Sweat, okay? Now, what the book, Groove Alchemy, eventually gets into is, well, then great. Let's take something like a Cold Sweat and maybe mix it with some of the things that Zig is doing, but then let's do a tone juxtaposition. Let's play it with the sounds of John Bonham. Or let's put it on a tiny bob kit and play it with the sounds of Elvin Jones. Either way, that would be cool, right? So, I'm going to take and put myself on the spot, but I'm going to try to make something up. Here's the groove to Cold Sweat, and then we know the groove to Sissy Strut. So I'm going to try to combine little elements of that, right?
Yeah. Nice.
And at the end, I threw in a little hint at Whole Lotta Love, right?
Oh, nice.
So the book, yes, helps understand a lot of the classic funk stuff, but helps understand how those guys creatively might have come up with it, and shows you, well, he took one of these ideas and one of these ideas and blended it, and then helps you jumpstart your own creativity and be like, oh, I love this and I love this. Who says I can't put them together and come up with a groove on that? And then we wrote songs around it and made the record Groove Alchemy, which is with my organ trio of Robert Walter and Will Bernard.
That's great. So we don't have nearly enough time to go through every section of the book, but there's a lot in here, tons of creative stuff, things based on clave, getting creative, swing, a whole section on shuffles, and a section on backbeats. So I think we should talk a little bit about making it, because I think that's going to let people understand the spirit of it a little.
Right. And I'm realizing too, is it okay if I mention that I actually, with working with Rob, we are now offering signed copies of the book to celebrate the 15th anniversary.
You have that in the chat, Rob? Is there a link?
So
Coming up.
I had Rob send me a bunch of the books. So, Rob and I talk over the years, and recently it's like, Rob, can you believe Groove Alchemy is going to be 15 years old? I was like, how about we do something special? How about I get a bunch of books and then have them sent to me, and I'll sign them, and then I can mail them anywhere in the world. So from my facilitator here in New Orleans, I've signed a whole bunch of them, and then we're offering that and then shipping them out. So Rob is placing the link for that in the chat.
Yep, it's up there.
If anybody's interested. And what's really cool about it now is that, yes, you can get the physical book signed by me if you like physical books, or if you want to just have that as, the physical keepsake. But it also has, this physical book has a link to download or access the video. So, Joe, to your point, hold up that DVD again. Nobody, well, some people may, but not a lot of people still access their DVDs. But all of that is available through the link that comes with the signed book now.
Right.
And all of the audio and the play-alongs and all of that is all in one package, which is the signed copy of the book that we'll send to you.
If you were me, what you would do is you'd get the signed copy of the book, put it on your shelf, because that's a collector's piece, and then buy the digital version, because in the digital version you just press the button and the audio plays back, and you use the digital version to practice too. That's just me.
Yeah.
You guys do you. Okay. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So let's I'm gonna share my screen here. And you guys should see some pictures here, and I'm just gonna bring up a few little shots to kind of take you guys back in time to our special time together when we did this. Can you guys see a picture of us on the deck?
I see the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you don't see the big picture? Okay, hang on. Let me try a different way. I'll just share my whole desktop. Okay, now do you guys see a big picture?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there we are. And this is I think, guys, we're on the deck. We're on the deck outside the barn at Levon's place, right?
Yes.
And there you can see the frightening cameras, and and here you can see me sitting in for Sandy next to the camera. But yeah, this is kind of the behind the scenes where, when you watch the production, it's like a movie where Stanton's, out there just not at the drums, but talking about what's going to happen, right? That was tough to film, Stanton?
Well, it was much easier than the first time. The first time was absolutely terrifying. And by this time, I was starting to get a little bit more comfortable. And, just to talk about, like, if y'all notice, look at all the woods.
Oh, yeah.
So you're basically in the woods of Woodstock, which has so much history. The band and Bob Dylan and so much great music created in Woodstock, aside from the festival that we all know, which was actually outside of actual Woodstock. But Levon's property was very idyllic, just beautiful wooded property with a big lake. And so this is where Levon lives or lived. And we got to hang out there and film.
So he also appeared.
There he is.
I just have to take a moment to tell you real quick from my point of view. So we're in the studio, right? And we'll come back to this. And it was great working in the studio, and it was a very, wonderful, vibey environment. Could you guys see this picture here with you can see the studio and you guys seeing that from back view of Stan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm seeing it.
So, you're in there all day, and it's kind of dark, right? So my eyes are adjusted to the dark. I was off camera, and there had been rumors and wonderings: is Levon going to appear? We're going to get to see him. And Stan, you probably don't remember that, but I remember sitting there, and you were just done with the take. Somebody said Levon might be coming. All of a sudden, the door opens, and my eyes were so acclimated to the dark that it was white light, like from heaven, white light. All of a sudden, these two big wolf dogs run in. The two big wolf dogs run in. They're like circle around me. They're huge. They look like wolves. And then a silhouette comes out from the white light. Hey, how are y'all doing? And I was like, that is the greatest freaking entrance in music history right there.
That is awesome.
That was my seeing Levon walk into the studio that day. It was like, and let me bring this up. And then you guys, I think, became fairly close, right?
Yeah. So he would come in almost every morning, and he would, roll himself up something and sit in front of his fireplace, which is just out of the picture of that last picture with the drums. And he would sit and listen to me either tracking or, recording. Talk about being in a pressure situation, no pressure. You're just trying to talk to the camera and film these classic funk grooves and demonstrate these things while Levon sits there and relaxes and listens, right? No pressure. And so then eventually Levon's drum tech says, hey man, Levon is really digging the sound of your drums. He used to play Gretsch, and he would like to get back with Gretsch. So long story short, I made that connection, and Gretsch took Levon on as a formal endorser, and they sent him a kit, red glass glitter, and his fourth gig on those drums was going to be in New Orleans, playing New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. So his drum tech, Justin Gwip, reached out to me and said, hey man, Levon wants to invite you to his performance at Jazz Fest, and he likes to come out front and play mandolin. I usually play drums, but he wants to see if you want to come sit in and play drums on Deep Ellum Blues. And I said, of course. So I went and sat in, and there's an audience video. If you just type in Levon Helm Jazz Fest Stanton Moore, you might find it on YouTube. And it's me sitting in, and Levon's playing mandolin, and at the end he's like dancing. He puts the mandolin down, he's dancing. And this picture is the moment after I sat in and I walked up to shake hands with him, and my friend Dino Perucci caught this picture. He was in the photo pit, and he caught this picture, and then I was on a tour. He brought this picture to me, and then on the tour, we were doing Levon's Ramble. We were playing the Ramble with my organ trio plus Anders Osborne. So Dino gave me this print, and then I got to go to the Ramble, and I had this print in the van, and I said, after the Ramble, I was in Levon's kitchen hanging with him. I said, Levon, my buddy gave me a print of us at Jazz Fest. Could I go get it? Would you sign it for me? He said, yeah, man, absolutely. So I went out to the van, got the print, brought it into Levon's kitchen. Levon put this on his kitchen counter, on his kitchen table, and signed it Stanton. You and me, baby. Levon Helm. And that is one of my prized possessions. You know, to get the print and then actually be able to have him sign it and have him personalize it like that. I mean, I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it.
Oh my God, what a special gift. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and if I can, since we're reminiscing, I'll keep it short, but, you know, we were trying to think of where to do this, and I was talking with Paul Siegel, Rob's former partner in Hudson, and I was like, Paul, you've been going to Levon's rambles and how amazing the barn is. Let's go check it out. So we did, and we walked in, and this was my first time meeting Levon. This is before we did Groove Alchemy, and his drum tech / studio engineer, Justin Quip, was trying to finish up the mixes and get them off so they could be, you know, the record could be going into production. So he was on a strict deadline. But Levon, it's like, oh, hey, Paul, what's going on? Justin, play Stanton and Paul that song. And so we started to have a listening party with Levon, and check out the record. I believe it's Electric Dirt. So we got to hear the record before it came out, and the record has a song called Golden Bird on it, and I got to hear it with Levon playing it for us, and I swear, in the moment, and anytime that I listen to this song, I tear up because it's so beautiful with Levon singing this song, and he had already been through bouts of his throat cancer and all, and he had come back and got his voice back, but his voice is very vulnerable, but he still sounds beautiful. That's the record, Electric Dirt, and there's a song called Golden Bird, and it's just unbelievably beautiful, and I got to hear it with Levon playing it to us. So, you know, the memories from this whole experience are just lifelong memories that I'll have forever.
I was just trying to bring up some shots to kind of narrate.
That was great timing. I was hoping you would show that.
What people are seeing here, these two shots of you in action during the DVD, and while our viewers ponder why you look the exact freaking same after 15 years, I have a question.
You do too, though, Joe. You absolutely do too. So.
I don't know, you know. Let's see. I'm sorry. It's from Nikos, from our buddy Nikos. Hey, Nikos, thanks for being here, man.
What's up, Nikos?
If Groove Alchemy was written today, would there be anything different or added in? What have you gained or changed any knowledge in these past 15 years?
That's a great question. And the answer is I would have liked to have added more in if I would have had more time. It took me about 5 years from conception to completion of writing the book. And of course, that's while I'm touring and playing, and you know, I still do have this day job of being a gigging, touring, recording musician, right? So it took me a while to write the book, and also you don't want to make the book too long. So I know Nikos loves, you know, within my Stanton Moore Drum Academy, there's a 17-page lesson that I've written on Tony Allen. I absolutely love Tony Allen, the drummer for Fela. Also, over the years, I've written more about Bernard Purdie. So, you know, doing things like blending Tony Allen with Bernard Purdie could be very interesting. So, to answer your question, Nikos, what I'm planning on doing is doing some of that and maybe offering it, you know, in my drum academy and offering it as a very conscious addendum to Groove Alchemy. So telling people, hey, if you if you purchase Groove Alchemy, you could also get this thrown in for, doing deals like that in the future, right? So I plan to maybe flesh all that out and maybe add to it as time goes on, because I do keep learning and keep growing, hopefully. But I'm very proud of the way that it is. And like I said, we didn't want to make it a 200-page book or a 300-page book, right? So I plan on adding to it over time as kind of addendums and, fun add-ons.
That's a great answer. It reminds me of what Sandy Feldstein told David Garibaldi. You can't put everything you know about drumming into a book, but yet, I think Rob and I are very proud of the fact that we have a really serious drumming clientele with Hudson. So, we also don't want. I get proposals every day of books that are like 1,000 variations on one exercise. That's over. That's not useful to today's drummer, right?
Right.
So I think you have to have that balance of having the red meat, and you did it perfectly. Now I don't want to talk out of turn. Rob might have to mute me here, but we may at Hudson be working on. We're definitely, the digital book platform is very robust, very cool, and we continue to find new ways to do cool things with it. And I also want to shout out to Mike Hoff, our technical wizard. We may be able to make some things where, you get new pages in a book that's already existing. We're a small group here. You guys got to keep this a secret for now. Okay. Can I trust all you guys? Jeff, can I trust you? All you guys, can I trust you? Bill, can I trust you? All you guys? All right, good.
You can trust me.
Yeah, that's right. So we can we can talk about that fact. That does anybody have anything that they want to throw into the chat? I've been able to monopolize Stanton all this time. Any questions? Throw them in there.
I definitely want to open it up for questions.
Yeah, so throw them in there. Was there any photos of anything specific you wanted me to throw up there, Stanton? I just kind of scrolled through a few.
Well, I definitely, shout out to my wife. 10 minutes before we went on, I remembered. I was like, oh, it would be great to show everybody that picture of me and Levon. And I'm like, but it's at my house in my office. So I called my wife, and she ran upstairs and took a picture of the picture and made it so we could include it. So I definitely wanted to include that picture, but you showed it. So
okay, cool.
We did that. You were pulling up some really good ones. So I just
yeah. Here,
you.
let me I'll share screen again. We'll just kind of go through and just see, maybe you can talk about what see what memories come up when you look at them. There's just so many cool shots.
And then Rob, you're kind of manning the questions. And then are there any other questions? And then, now's the time. If you have a question, submit it in the chat and let it rip. I love answering questions. And let us know if there's anything you would like me to address while we do it together.
You guys can see my screen again now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So far, everyone's quiet.
Yeah.
So far. Well, the first question, and I love that picture. You can see the sign, Levon Helm Studios, up there. And, that's the loft up there where the recording equipment, the studio equipment, the computer, and all the preamps and all of that is up there. And, once Paul and I went there to initially check it out, Paul was like, oh, I don't know, man. There's no isolation. I don't know if we can do it there, because Hudson was used to doing everything with isolation and where you have glass separating the drums from the control room. Yeah. And after I walked in there and experienced the vibe, I was like, we have to do it there. I was like, oh my God, that's like the greatest vibe of all time. We're doing it there. And so Paul acquiesced, and thankfully so. And yeah, I mean, just look at that. It's such a beautiful space. And that rock wall, those are rocks that they dug out of the creeks
Wow.
from the surrounding area, you know, and
Yeah.
made that wall. And just off camera, there is the organ and the guitar, and, you know, and I loved this vibe so much. I went back and I made a record with Eric Krasno, the Krasno Moore project. We did there as well.
Oh, nice.
So,
Let me see if
yeah,
is there one. I don't know if I have one from the top. I thought I had a view from the top. Maybe not. Oh, that's rear view of your kit. Are you still using this like satellite bass drum
so
situation?
that's a great question. I, of course, still have all of my big bass drums. Coming out of COVID, I wanted to pare things down, simplify things, and I decided to, in that picture, that's a 20 in main position and a 26. So I decided to split the difference. I talked to Paul Cooper at Gretsch, and he is a super sweet human being who has become a very good friend of mine. And he said, "Oh, brother, you're going to love a 24. Let me make you a 24." So he made me a 24, and I absolutely love 24s now. So this bass drum in my studio now is a 24, and I am decidedly now most of the time playing a 24. And Galactic, we decided to not do as many long bus tours because we were bringing our own gear, which allowed me to bring that kit with the two bass drums. And so now we fly in and I play backline, and I'll play those size toms with a 24, a 14 by 24, and most backline companies have that, and that's what I do. And I love that because the 12, 14, 16, 24 is like a mini Bonham kit. Everything's just 2 inches smaller, and most backline companies have it, and the 24 sounds great in funk. And to me, a 22 is just a little too commonplace, a little too standard. So I really like having the 24, and that's what I'm doing now, to answer your question. Not playing the two bass drums, but playing a 20 when I'm doing organ trio stuff, or a lot of what I would call second gear, and then third gear being Galactic and Anders Osborne or Dragon Smoke or Les Claypool, and I play a 24 in those situations. And then if I'm swinging out or playing in more of a jazz context and playing with my piano trio, which I do a lot. I played piano trio last night. I play usually 12, 14, 18. So, and I call that first gear, where I'm playing more brushes and a bop kit. And so most instances now where I'm playing touring, I'm playing with a 24.
Okay, cool. All right, let's. We're going to start to wind down, but we have a couple final questions.
Cool.
The first one's from me. If you're playing backline, what do you travel with?
Okay, that's a great question. And I travel with my cymbals, my snare drum, my Pandero, cowbell, and so Nick, would you give me an overhead? So
You check in the snare drum on flights?
I do, yeah.
Oh wow,
So I
that's
bridge.
ballsy.
Yeah, well, this is, that's what I do. And if I'm on one of the airlines that I have premier status, I've got it so my trap case is 70 pounds with cymbals, okay, snare drum, and then I put the Pandero upside down on the snare drum, and then I put the hi-hats on top of that in a snare bag. And if I take that out, it makes the trap case exactly 50 pounds.
Whoa, okay.
And then I carry the snare, Pandero, and hi-hat on. And then if I put that in, it makes it exactly 70 pounds. And
Wow.
that's what the 50 pounds is the cymbals and the stick bag. and the cowbell.
I love it. Listen,
Yeah.
for us professional drummers, I don't care about the grooves. I want to hear about this. I want to hear about the weight of the suitcase. No, just kidding.
Right, I know. Well, that's very valuable, and I mean valuable, yes, information, but also it can help you save money if you know all of that. If you show up for your first tour with a 73-pound trap case, you're paying $200.
Right. Well, yeah, there's other issues too of like, what do you need to travel with to get your sound? What can you backline and all that? But
Right.
that might be
So
a topic for another day.
Right, but I backline the shells, the toms, the bass drum, and the stands. And, usually it's 3 cymbal stands, 3 snare stands, 1, 2, 3, okay? So backline, 3 cymbal stands, 3 snare stands, a hi-hat stand, and a throne, and the pedal.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you're not picky about the pedal? You play a backline pedal?
No, I mean, I play a 9000, and thank goodness most of the time they're in decent shape, and a 9000 is built like a tank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool. So a couple of final questions from Nielsen. What are you currently listening to for inspiration? Any newer music, newer bands?
That's a great question. And, currently I still will listen to, my Holy Trinity is, and Nick, you can give me this front cam again. My Holy Trinity of drummers that I can always go back to for inspiration is Zigaboo Modeliste, John Bonham, and Elvin Jones. And between those three, with Zig, you can be the funkiest drummer in the world. With John Bonham, you've got all that power, all that groove, all that, play all kinds of different rock situations. And with Elvin, you can swing your ass off, play the most beautiful ballads or mallets or, so a combination of those three, I really feel like I have all that I need. And then still to this day, I feel very fortunate that like at 16 years old, I went to go hear somebody play in town. I was about to go to Loyola University, and I went to go hear the director of jazz, John Mahoney. He played trombone and piano. And I went to go hear him at a church before I went to Loyola. And I'm sitting there watching this with my dad, and I'm like, Dad, that drummer's really good. And he goes, yeah, he sounds good. And then I'm like, another 5-7 minutes go by. I'm like, no, Dad, that drummer's really good. And then, like, by the end of it, I'm like, Dad, that might be one of the best drummers I've ever heard in my life. It was a 19-year-old Brian Blade.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I got to watch Brian Blade become Brian Blade. Like, he lived in New Orleans for several years. And to this day, for inspiration, if I'm ever feeling like uninspired, just go pick up any record with Brian Blade on it, and it'll bring me back to that moment where it's like at 16 years old, I was just like, I'll never be that good. Like, holy crap. So, I love Brian, but he's always been a supernova and light years ahead, Even when you think I'm getting good, then you just listen to Brian, you're like, Jesus, man, where is he drawing that, like, that heavenly inspiration from? It's just so beautiful. And so still to this day, if I want to feel inspired, I just put on
That's
some
great.
Blade.
It's great to hear you. No, it's great to hear you talk about someone you look up to like that. I mean, I think, all of us in here, we're all working on our playing, and sometimes you get down on it, and sometimes you feel super confident. But yeah, to hear somebody of your stature talk about someone, you look up to, that's really cool.
And I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, we all listen to Brian Blade for inspiration. But I got to see him before anybody knew who he was when I was 16. And still that, to this day, it's just like, God, the feeling of that, feeling like, okay, the joy of seeing something that amazing and then also at the same time feeling like I'll never be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm going to work my butt off to become my own self. And I realized, well, I'm gonna pursue funk and groove because there can only be one Brian Blade in New Orleans. I'm gonna go be, the rock inspired funk drummer and make a living doing that.
Well, you did a good job.
Well, thank you.
From Scott, I love your playing on all styles of music. When do you expect the new Corrosion album to come out?
That's a great question. So I get daily group texts from Pepper Keenan and the whole Corrosion of Conformity group. And sometimes it's like a new Black Sabbath interview or documentary. Sometimes it's like, this is how they recorded the background vocals to this Bee Gees record. It's like, we're in all these amazing group texts. So the drums and the bass are tracked. A lot of the guitar, a lot of the rhythm guitars are tracked. And so that's all super inspiring. Pepper is literally today, I got a text from him. I'm going in to retrack the vocals on a tune that they're about to release, a cover. I'm not going to give it away too much, but he's literally tracking vocals today on something. So it is actively being worked on, and I think it's really, really, really good. And I think it's every bit as good, dare I say, hopefully some people will think it's even better than In the Arms of God, which is the record that I did with them 20 years ago. There is some of it, it's vicious, man. It's freaking furious. And I can't wait for people to hear it, man. I'm really, really excited about it. The answer is when. I hope that maybe it'll get released towards the end of this year, but they're not rushing it. They're only going to release it when it's ready, but it is actively being worked on. And for those who might not know, Corrosion of Conformity is a band that's been around for a long time, and it's a project that I'm very honored to be included in. And Pepper Keenan and I grew up in New Orleans, and we've known each other for over 30 years. And when they need a drummer to help them out on a record, they reach out to me. And when Pepper's like, "Hey man, wanna come hang out? Wanna come hang out and make some heavy music?" I'm like, of course I do. Say, man, come on, let's go make some heavy metal. It's like, of course. And I've done a 5-day writing session in Raleigh, a 4-day writing session in New Orleans, numerous writing sessions in here, a 6-day pre-production session in Bay St. Louis, and 8 days of tracking drums in Lafayette, Louisiana, all for this record. So, we are really working hard on it, and it, we're trying to make it be like the best record they've ever put out. And so, it's very Black Sabbath influenced, and this record is like a cross between Black Sabbath and ZZ Top, with sprinkles of Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and Deep Purple, with some Motorhead attitude.
I love it.
And it's killing, man. It's going to be really cool.
Cool.
And the songs are really, really strong. The whole band has been working their asses off to make it really good.
Awesome. Real quick, last question from Gary. You do a lot, so many projects. How do you plan your time, and how do you plan your year?
That's a great question. And Gary, the answer is I have, a color-coded Google Calendar, and like Galactic Management has access to my calendar, and so does my wife, and so do some of my other projects, and they can see, oh, well, shoot, he won't be able to do that because he's already committed to going to South America with Corrosion of Conformity. And I let everybody know, okay, COC has asked me to go to South America in January. Are we planning anything? Nope, you're clear. Okay, mark it out. I am going to South America with Corrosion of Conformity. I let all of the other projects know, right? And so things get planned like a year, sometimes a year and a half in advance. And I like to set up things to where they repeat annually. So like my Spirit of New Orleans drum camp, I know that every year, the second weekend after Thanksgiving, that is my Spirit of New Orleans drum camp.
Right.
Every year, the first weekend after Thanksgiving is Dragon Smoke on the West Coast, right? And so every year, the last weekend of April, first weekend of May is Jazz Fest. And within Jazz Fest, there are certain nights that I know, the Tuesday night in between, that's Dragon Smoke at Tipitina's. And then when Zildjian wanted to do something, and Rob Wallace has been to the Zildjian Artist Jam, and it's super fun. It's 14 drummers, and I put together a killer house band, and Zildjian wanted to do something for the 400th anniversary, but they wanted to make it repeatable. So next year will be the 4th year. And I told them, okay, great, let's do it. Let's do it at Tips. Let's do it make it repeatable every year. And it's like, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it on Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. And they thought I was nuts. And I said, hear me out. Because on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, every drummer is going to be available. On a Saturday or a Friday or a Thursday, no drummer is going to be available. And on that Tuesday, you might have some people who could stay over from the first weekend. Some people can come in early who are going to be on the second weekend. And also, I know that we've worked almost 20 years to get it to where Dragon Smoke plays that Tuesday night. We are going to hold on to that Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Now, if we try to do it on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, maybe a national band might want that night, and then they're coming in at 11 a.m., and they're locking out the club all day for sound check and all that. Right. I'm like, I know that. Our sound check is at 6 o'clock. We can do it 3 to 5. It'll work. And now it's working so well, we're about to do our 4th year. So point being, sometimes I try to lock things in so that I know that this thing is going to happen every year at the same time. So I try to lock in annuals to where I just know that every year it's going to be the same thing. That's how I plan a lot of my schedule. But, you know, as a professional drummer, nobody hands you 8 hours a day to practice. A lot of my day is spent in email and scheduling and planning and administrative work. And Joe, you know that. You know that very well. So I'm always trying to scrounge and find time to shed and practice because I love shedding. Yep. But a lot of my time is spent scheduling.
For sure, man. You're not saying your wife has to go on Google Docs and make an appointment, are you?
No, she does not. But we have coffee every morning, and it is written in the schedule.
Oh, nice. All right.
And we have a group calendar, and I color it green because, for multiple reasons. But her eyes are green, and green is like, a very peaceful color.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to color our group schedule, our shared schedule red, right? Although, that could be sweet, I guess. But green. So we know, okay, that's Stanton and Lauren, and we schedule things, and she knows. And Friday, we are going on our annual vacation for 9 days. So we know every year in June, we go on vacation. So that helps me get through everything, right?
Yeah.
I know that I'm going on that. So that helps me kind of get through.
It's a good idea. No, really, it is a good idea, especially when you have wives and families and stuff. But awesome. Well, you deserve to be so busy. We thank you for giving us freely of your time today, Stanton. Always great to see you, my friend.
It's great to see you guys. Thank you for doing this. It feels really great that this project is, you know, it's gotten a lot of accolades over the years. Oh, I don't think we got to mention it. It won Book of the Year in 2011. It came out in 2010. So, you know, the next year it won the Modern Drummer Readers Poll. A complete surprise to me is that Modern Drummer came out with this top 25 top timeless books of all time, and it's on the list of top 25 Modern Drummer top books of all time. I was super surprised by that. Although, you know, I wrote it to be important, hopefully. And then once we realized it's 15 years old, we said, oh man, let's do a push. Let's like really try to let people know about the book. And if it's okay, I'll say, if you want to get a signed copy, Rob dropped that link in the chat. And I'm going to be promoting it a lot mid-June. I'm going to be emailing about it. I'm going to be posting about it. And, you know, you'll have opportunities to grab a copy. And, you know, you don't have to grab just one. They make great gifts for buddy friends, you know, drummer buddies. And, you know, if you've got a birthday coming up or Christmas, you know, you don't have to get just one. There's no limit.
Nice. So Rob dropped the link into the chat again. And,
Cool.
you know, everybody that's here, all you guys, you can reach out to me, Joe B at hudsonmusic.com. If you have questions about the digital player, the digital books, you forgot where to get a signed one, you forgot to get an unsigned one. You know, we're all, we're lean and mean here at Hudson. We're all here to help. So you reach out to Rob or me via email. If you have any questions, we'll get you pointed in the right direction too. But please check out Groove Alchemy if you haven't already. It's really a masterwork, and we're proud to have published it these 15 years ago. And it's gonna remain eternally important and eternally here. And maybe someday we'll add to it.
Yeah, I hope so. And, you know, I want to say I feel very fortunate that I got to work with you guys on it. And, you know, I want to say to everybody watching, keep supporting Hudson because they keep putting out incredible products. And make sure that you check out all the great books and products that they've been putting out. I mean, you know, because Joe is on this, I'll say it again. You know, I can't wait to check out the Billy Cobham book and the Steve Gadd book. And I've got the Stuart Copeland and the Neil Peart. And, you know, it's really great, well put together drumming information. So
thank you.
Thanks, Stanton. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, you guys, thanks a million. And
Everyone can say hi to Stanton if you want.
Yeah, and you know, if you're not in contact with me yet, if you want to get on my email list, just download any one of my free PDFs. I've got a bunch of free PDFs. You can download any one of those. Get on my email list and be in contact with me and know about things
Hey, Rush.
I'm doing.
Hey, just check to see.
And I just do 2 camps a year. If y'all are interested in that, let me know more about it. Oh, everybody's saying hi. I get it. You unmuted everybody. What's
Yeah, I
up,
just
everybody?
unmuted everyone. Now it's chaos.
Raymond did for the No Before
I love it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you,
Yeah,
Stanton.
thank you so much,
Joe.
everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Stanton.
thank you
I
guys.
appreciate y'all tuning in.
We'll see you on the next one.
See y'all on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.